Are you looking for the magic to make your life truly count? Do you want the secret formula to make every day your best day yet? Hello, and welcome to the Finishing on Fire radio show. And now, here are your show hosts, Dave Wadsworth and Greg Vance.
And hello, we are glad to be here. I'm Dave Wadsworth, the co-host, and
Greg Vance. Good to see you, Dave.
good to see you. We want to talk to you tonight whenever you're listening to it. I guess it could be tonight, or it could be in the morning or midday. But the topic we're talking about now is prosperity. It's coming from our book, Finishing on Fire. That's on Amazon. It's about living your legacy of purpose, passion, and prosperity. And we covered passion and we talked about our purpose, but we want to talk about prosperity because that's what we're really trying to key in for people to really prosper and enjoy life each and every day. And really that's what we're pushing today. We're talking about true prosperity, which comes from a fully engaged life. And that's what we want to talk on today. What do you say, Greg?
Hey, I'm excited to, as you just said, we talked about purpose, passion, and now we're tying together prosperity with it. So it's a great bookend those discussions.
There you go. There you go. I want to start out with a quote, Greg. This is from the book Finishing on Fire, and it's the prosperity vision of a 3-year-old. It's from their perspective. Actually, it's Harper Lee in chapter 1. Harper Lee, my granddaughter, she's 3 years old and she is funny. And here's her thinking on prosperity. Harper is the richest person on the planet. Wouldn't we be if our outlook of everyone and everything was, gee, how much fun can they or that be? Come play with me is her constant request. True prosperity comes from the fully engaged life we see in the eyes of a 3-year-old. Everyone is a playmate. Everything is a plaything. What a fantastic outlook, perspective, and attitude. I like that one. Don't you, Greg?
I love that. Hey, can you remember back to a time when you had that outlook?
I haven't had it since yesterday. No, that come right from my wife. That's a quote from her. You're acting like a 3-year-old.
He said, thanks for the compliment, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I'm growing up. They're very good. Yeah, you're right. I just remember the days that it was just all about living life, having fun, expression, and just, getting after it.
Right.
Getting after it. Yeah. What about you? Do you remember stuff when you were young and you were carefree or?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it seems like if you think between now and then, it seems like there's this process of just becoming, as they call it, adult. As you get more and more responsibilities, you feel like you're just weighed down with things and you just lose that focus on seeing the rest of the world. Sometimes you're so tunnel visioned oftentimes because of the things that you have to do, you got to do, you're encumbered to do. And so I think we want to challenge ourselves as well to, every day, kind of when we wake up, think about pull off those blinders if we can. There's a chance they're going to get knocked off when you're in traffic driving to work or something like that. But
this is funny. I know your computer's acting up and stuff, but we talk about enjoying life in the moment. And that's really what we want to teach you to do. And I read a book this week and I'll refer to it later on. It's by Matthew McConaughey. It's called Green Lights. And he's had a wild ride, and he, as an adult, has kind of come full circle. But he was talking about someone, whether it was his mom or somebody, a relative, was looking at one of these old folks retirement places, and maybe it was his mother, and how he said, this place is kind of cool because people like they don't really give a rip about anything and what people think, and they're just having fun and they're living in the moment. And I'm thinking, there you go. That's being prosperous because you're just enjoying life. And that's what we're trying to do here and talk about that a lot. And that moves us into, I guess the way I started the book was a question of your mentality and how you look at things. And one way is an abundance mentality. And then the other thing versus a scarcity mentality. And I've got a quote I want to read on that one, Greg, too. That's actually early on in the first chapter. It says, "The person living in fear always sees a problem in every solution. The fear creates a scarcity mentality. The faithful person lives and promotes the abundance mentality." And it talks about how this book takes you through living that abundance mentality and getting away from the scarcity mentality, which comes with fear, fear and doubt and just, living under this COVID thing that we've dealt with for the last, 10, 11 months. A lot of people are living in fear and they have that scarcity mentality. It's like, oh my, and they pull back and they just don't live. So what do you say about that, Greg? You got any comments on that?
Yeah, I was actually going to share another little just micro story, I guess, with that. I've often heard scarcity versus abundance talked about, but one of the best word pictures I've heard is to visualize scarcity as a cake and to visualize abundance as a candle. So the way that works is, if you consider, classically, if you're going to have a piece of cake or somebody else is going to have a piece of cake, the bigger or smaller piece they have, it's going to determine the other person's sizes that they're going to get. So that's the whole scarcity thing. We often think of that. Just because somebody else is going to get more, you're going to get less.
Gotcha.
So on the candle side, if you ever lit a candle, it's got the nice flame on it. You can impact somebody else in a very positive light because you can lend them the flame that you have to allow that to be a spark in their life and to light their candle. And so it's really a place of abundance. You can light as many candles as long as you have an infinite candle, it's going to burn for a while. You can light an awful lot of candles for other people. So if you take that into your own life and think about abundance and what you can do to bless other people and to provide positivity in their lives, that's a word picture that I enjoy.
That's really, really a good analogy. I like the way, because a lot of people, they think of our lives as a single, cake. And if you get a piece, I only get a certain size that's left also. And as people take away from that, there's just a limit on it.
Right.
And we want to teach people, we want to talk about that abundance where, hey, let's make a bigger cake. Let's make more cakes. Let's look at it in that way. But the candle, that's a great analogy because it lights the room. The first candle, you light it and then you share it and you then let them share their light and just continue on. And that is huge. And I think we have to fight the negative in our lives and push that off so we can see that the value of that mentality, that prosperity mentality, that abundance mentality, that, hey, just because I get a piece of cake doesn't mean you're going to go hungry. No, we're going to share, but we're also going to help it grow. And I really like thinking that way. And I like promoting that.
Yeah, I love that. Especially with, as you were just talking about Harper Lee a while ago, 3-year-old, we know one of the first things that's hard to learn when you're young is to share.
Yeah.
And and to think about abundance versus it's mine.
Yeah. So, that's a good thought. I like that. We're getting ready to have another grandbaby. Harper Lee is going to have a baby sister.
Yay.
And she's gonna learn really quick. Yeah, we're excited about that one. It's coming up real soon. And Harper Lee's going to find out real quickly that she's not the center of the universe anymore. she's gonna have to share. She's gonna have to learn that yeah, there's a lot of toys there, but she doesn't get her way on everything. So I'm excited about that. And that's a great thing about having multiple children in a family. They do learn the value of sharing and growing together and playing together and socializing, just within the families to start with. And it's very important lesson. So that's a good point. I like you bringing that up. I know one other point, Greg, you were talking about, we wanted to continue on. When we talk about prosperity, we talk about a book that a lot of people have read, by Napoleon Hill. It's Think and Grow Rich. And in America, I believe that you have the opportunity to turn nothing into really something. If you've got basic skills, you can communicate, or you have a desire, you can build anything you want. And I think if you have an abundance mentality, you're looking for opportunities, you're looking for solutions, and you're constantly not giving up, but you're becoming aware. And that's something that Bob Proctor talks about. And excuse me, he's got a book about money being a magnifier. And as you have money, it basically magnifies who you really are. So if you're poor and you're a jerk, okay, when you're rich, you're going to be a big jerk. And so money just magnifies who you are. So if you're a generous, really a good person that cares and shares, as you become prosperous financially, it's going to really help you blossom into who you are. And it's just going to really, help people. But I know Napoleon Hill in his book, actually, it was something, I don't know if it was in that book that he wrote or something about that idea, but there was a list of 12 or 13 different things when he talked about thinking and growing rich and just being rich. And the money part of it actually came at the kind of the very end of that list. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's like 11, 12, 13, whatever it was, but I just remember that vividly, how he emphasized that, hey, it's not a monetarily thing, not necessarily. Now prosperity, deals with money also. And I definitely encourage people, because you got to have money. You can't survive without it. I know. Here's a funny quote I just remember from Zig Ziglar. And he says, a lot of people say money is not that important. And he says, you think about it, he says, it's not the most important thing, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. So I thought that was pretty good, that, we have to have it to survive. So we got to have air to breathe, and we got to have money or services that we can exchange to continue on in life and prosper. So the moving on here, Greg, I talk a little bit about what prosperity brings to you and those other aspects. And I know we talked about just kind of a list of things, better health and nutrition. Being prosperous means having better relationships. And that's what this book really talks about. If your relationships are good, that is huge, because every minute of every day you're dealing with either family or friends or coworkers or whatever. And so having very positive relationships around you is so critical. And then of course we talk about better families, enhanced life and freedoms that we have, better spiritual and life meaning pursuits. I talk about Viktor Frankl a lot, and how he talked about in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, as the key ingredient in life is your search for meaning. We have to have meaning in our life. And if we're just going about life and going through the motions like a zombie, if we just don't really have a purpose, we don't have that meaning, we're not serving others. And that's where you really find a lot of your meaning, is being the best person you are that you can be, and serving people is a big part of that. And that's just wisdom from the ages, really. Now, one thing I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about that book by Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. And the thing was, in that book, he he basically lived his life like a kind of like a child, his adult life. He was looking for opportunities to enjoy life. He was constantly trying to find out who he was. Uh, he was game on every day. Who am I? How do I make myself better? What adventures or what experiments or what education do I need to become a better person? And he's got so many quotes in there that I really enjoy and really like. But he traveled over the world. He went over to Africa, Australia, all these different places, and he would go kind of incognito. He didn't want people to know who he was, and he would go to these places and and I think South America, just a lot of different places where he would go, and he wanted to be himself, and he wanted to be accepted and be a part of a community for who he was, and not for any kind of fame or anything like that. And of course, it was all part of his discovery. His Australian adventure actually started when he was just finishing high school. He did an exchange program where he lived with a family outside of Sydney, and it was pretty amazing. He was with this kind of an odd, crazy family, and it just was it really quite an adventure that he had. But Matthew, he's had wild times. He had so many experiences. He was doing all kinds of stuff, and it's just fun. And I thought, you know what? He is a good example of finishing on fire and actually living on fire. And that's what I thought was pretty cool. And so I just wanted to interject that book into this whole thing and just talk about how he was living, almost like my 3-year-old granddaughter, and just being passionate and searching for his purpose. And obviously prosperity has come his way because he's done very, very well in many films, winning all kinds of awards. But he got to a point where, he was in so many of these romance comedies, and he would be out there, that kind of become his label. He was the guy, and he got to one point where he was actually saying, hey, you know what? I don't do that anymore. I want to move on. I want to take on scripts and roles that challenge me. And so he just, he took a different turn, and he held out. He had somebody come to him for some movie role, and they offered him $5 million. And he's like, nope, not do it. That's another one of those romantic comedies. And then they jumped it up to like $10 million. And he's like, nope, sorry, not going to do it, And then they went to like 12.5 million. And he's like, well, let me look at that script again and see if maybe this is a little better, thing. And they ended up going to 14.5 million. And his wife, Camilla, said, you know what? You stick to your guns. And that's what he did. He said, I'm just not going to do it, even at $14.5 million, which seems kind of crazy. And so what he did, he waited, and it was like 20 to 24 months. It was a real dry spell. And then all of a sudden it was almost like he was out of sight, out of mind somewhat, but he come back and took on different roles. And he was kind of like a new man again. And it was really pretty cool. A really neat story about what he did. So anyway, but yeah, I lost Greg on the other end of this. So it's going to be mostly monologue as we go on here and finish this out. But talking a little bit more about prosperity, we are certainly in the mindset of abundance and you finding out who you are and prospering in your life, and looking at, don't look at other people around you, but look at you, yesterday. And that's the only comparison you need is who you were yesterday and say, okay, how can I improve? And what direction am I going? And am I truly prospering in my habits and the relationships that I have? Am I prospering in my whole thought process? Because what you feed your mind is, I think, really more important than what you feed your body a lot of times, because your mind can really set the tone for your life, and so it's so critical. But moving on, I just want to kind of finish up here on the prosperity thing, and just encourage you to really sit down for a minute and think, okay, where am I at? Who am I around? Where am I going? And who am I going to go with or take with me? And think about those questions in your life. But I want you to be prosperous. And Greg, wherever he's at, he wants you to be prosperous too. But basically, our question that we talk about every time on every episode is this: are you growing or are you dying? Because you're not going to sit still. You're either growing or you're dying. And ask yourself that. Financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, relationships wise, education, health and nutrition, all the way down the line. Are you growing or are you dying? And here's the choice: you can either fire up or you can fizzle out. And I just want to wish you all the best. And Greg, we'll see everybody next time. And thank you for listening, and take care. Blessings to you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Finishing on Fire radio show. Be sure to visit finishingonfire.com for more great content. Go light your world.